Arsenal's Julián Álvarez dream-in-doubt striker makes transfer decision. Arsenal's hopes of signing Atletico Madrid striker Julián Álvarez this summer have suffered a major setback, with fresh reports suggesting the Argentine has already made a decision on his future. Good evening and welcome along to the Transfer Show. Bringing in a world-class striker remains Arsenal's top priority this summer, but could one of their biggest targets already be slipping away? Yeah, this is a fascinating story because for weeks now we've been hearing Arsenal linked with Julián Álvarez. He's one of the most exciting forwards in European football, a player who's proven himself in both the Premier League and La Liga. But the latest information coming out of Spain suggests Arsenal may have a problem, and it's not Atletico Madrid. Exactly. The reports claim Arsenal are actually the only realistic club capable of putting together a deal for Álvarez right now. That's quite significant because we've also heard Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain mentioned as potential destinations. But despite Arsenal being in the strongest position financially, the player himself reportedly isn't interested in a move to North London. And that's the key point here. According to those reports, Julián Álvarez's priority would be Barcelona if he were to leave Atletico Madrid. In fact, it's being suggested that he doesn't want to move to London at all. Now, that's obviously a huge blow for Arsenal because convincing the player is often the hardest part of any transfer. It certainly is. And when you look at Álvarez's rise over the last couple of seasons, it's easy to understand why Arsenal have shown interest. Since leaving Manchester City and joining Atletico Madrid, he's developed into one of Europe's elite forwards. He's become a complete striker. Goals, movement, work rate, link-up play, he's got everything. Which is exactly why Mikel Arteta would love to bring him to the Emirates. Arsenal have been searching for that clinical number 9 for several transfer windows now. They've come close to winning major trophies, but many supporters feel they still need that ruthless goalscorer to take them over the line. The challenge, though, is that Álvarez doesn't appear to be pushing for a move. The reports suggest Atletico Madrid are already planning for next season with him in their squad. They're building their future around him, and unless something dramatic changes, the expectation inside the club is that he'll stay. And that's where this story gets really interesting, because Barcelona aren't exactly in a strong position either. While Álvarez reportedly prefers a move to Camp Nou, sources close to the situation are describing any potential deal as extremely complicated. Financial issues remain a major obstacle, and negotiations are said to be at a standstill. So where does that leave Arsenal? Well, at this stage, it feels like the Gunners are facing an uphill battle. They may be the only club capable of making a realistic offer, but if the player isn't convinced by the project, then Arsenal may have to start looking elsewhere, and that's exactly what appears to be happening. Because while the Álvarez situation continues to drag on, Arsenal have already identified alternative targets. One name generating plenty of attention is Bournemouth teenage sensation Eli Junior Krupi. Now, this is a player who's enjoyed a breakthrough season in the Premier League, still only 19 years old, but already attracting attention from some of Europe's biggest clubs. Arsenal scouts have been monitoring his development closely, and there could be an opportunity here. Absolutely. One of the biggest developments is that Paris Saint-Germain are reportedly no longer expected to challenge Arsenal for his signature. That's significant because PSG was seen as one of the strongest competitors in the race. And whenever a club like PSG drops out of a transfer battle, it naturally improves Arsenal's chances. Bournemouth still want to keep the player, of course, and they won't make negotiations easy. But Arsenal have been handed a boost. Meanwhile, Arsenal's summer business isn't limited to strikers. The club are also keeping a close eye on young defender Emmanuel Mbemba. PSG have offered him professional terms, but he has yet to commit his future, creating a possible opportunity for Arsenal to make their move. So to summarise then, Arsenal's pursuit of Julián Álvarez faces a major obstacle as the Atletico Madrid star reportedly prioritises Barcelona and remains reluctant to move to London. Atletico expect him to stay, Barcelona face significant complications, and Arsenal may now be forced to focus on alternative options. The transfer window is only just beginning, and as we know in football, things can change very quickly. But right now, Arsenal supporters may need to prepare themselves for the possibility that Julián Álvarez won't be the striker walking through the doors of the Emirates this summer. And if that's the case, the focus will quickly turn to who Arsenal target next. We'll continue to monitor every development as the summer window unfolds. Now, sticking with Julián Álvarez, because there are some fresh developments emerging from Spain, and they paint an even clearer picture of where this transfer saga currently stands. Yeah, and unfortunately for Arsenal supporters, the latest reports don't exactly offer a lot of encouragement. Because while Arsenal continue to be linked with Álvarez, Atletico Madrid seem increasingly confident that their star striker isn't going anywhere this summer. That's right. In fact, Atletico are already planning for next season with Álvarez at the centre of Diego Simeone's project. The club are actively working on strengthening other areas of the squad. But crucially, they're doing so with the expectation that the Argentine forward remains in Madrid. And that tells you a lot about Atletico's position. If they genuinely believed Álvarez was on the verge of leaving, they'd already be searching for replacements. Instead, they're acting like a club that expects their star striker to stay exactly where he is. Now, one of the reasons this situation has become so complicated is Barcelona's involvement. The Catalan giants have made no secret of their admiration for Álvarez, but relations between Atletico Madrid and Barcelona have become increasingly strained in recent months. Absolutely, Atletico publicly expressed their frustration over the constant speculation linking Álvarez with Barcelona. They felt some of the stories were disrespectful and unnecessary, and that has only complicated matters further. Despite that tension, Barcelona still appear to believe they have a chance. Reports suggest they've remained patient, stepping back temporarily to see whether circumstances change as the summer progresses. But here's the problem. Barcelona's financial situation continues to make any deal extremely difficult. We're hearing that Atletico have already rejected an approach worth around 100 million. That's a massive amount of money, but Atletico clearly value Álvarez even higher. And if Atletico aren't willing to negotiate with Barcelona, then Arsenal should theoretically be in a stronger position. Theoretically, yes. But football transfers aren't just about money, they're about convincing the player. And that's where Arsenal continue to face a major obstacle, because according to multiple reports, Álvarez simply isn't considering a move to North London at this stage. Arsenal may be the only club realistically capable of financing a deal, but if the player doesn't want to make that move, then it's very difficult to see how negotiations can progress. Exactly. And that's why many people close to the situation are now describing the entire transfer as being at a standstill. Atletico don't want to sell, Barcelona can't easily buy, and Arsenal can't convince the player, which leaves us with what is perhaps the most likely outcome right now. Julián Álvarez remains an Atletico Madrid player next season, and if that happens, Arsenal will have some very important decisions to make, because Mikel Arteta simply cannot afford another transfer window without strengthening the number 9 position. Especially when you consider the level Arsenal are operating at now. They've challenged for major honours. They've competed deep into the Champions League. But the feeling among many supporters is that one elite striker could be the difference between competing and actually winning. And that's why the recruitment team are expected to keep multiple options open throughout the summer. Álvarez remains one of the dream targets, but Arsenal are not putting all their eggs in one basket. Meanwhile, Atletico themselves are already looking ahead. Reports suggest they're exploring moves for several high-profile players, including Chelsea left-back Marc Cucurella. They're also keeping an eye on former Manchester City midfielder Bernardo Silva. Although interestingly, just like Álvarez, Bernardo's reported preference appears to be Barcelona, which once again highlights how attractive Barcelona remain as a destination despite their financial limitations. But from Arsenal's perspective, the message is becoming increasingly clear. Unless something changes dramatically in the coming weeks, the Julián Álvarez deal is looking more difficult than ever. And that could force Arsenal to accelerate their pursuit of alternative striker targets as they prepare for another huge season under Mikel Arteta.
Arsenal's Julián Álvarez dream in doubt. Why the Gunners could miss out on their ideal striker. Arsenal's search for a world-class striker continues, but hopes of signing Julián Álvarez appear to be fading. Despite Mikel Arteta's admiration for the Argentine forward, Atletico Madrid remain determined to keep one of their biggest stars. Here's why Arsenal's dream move is in serious doubt and what it could mean for the Gunners' transfer plans. Arsenal's Julián Álvarez dream in doubt. Why the Gunners could miss out on their ideal striker. Arsenal's pursuit of a proven goalscorer has dominated headlines throughout the transfer window, and one name continues to excite supporters more than most: Julián Álvarez. The Argentine international is regarded as one of the finest forwards in world football, and his qualities make him an ideal fit for Mikel Arteta's tactical system. However, despite Arsenal's long-standing admiration for the striker, completing a deal now looks increasingly difficult. Atletico Madrid have made it clear that Álvarez is a key part of their long-term project, leaving Arsenal with a major challenge if they hope to bring the World Cup winner to the Emirates Stadium. Why Arsenal want Julián Álvarez? Arteta has transformed Arsenal into one of Europe's strongest teams, but many believe the squad still lacks a clinical striker capable of consistently scoring 25 or more goals each season. Álvarez ticks almost every box. He is quick, intelligent, hard-working and technically gifted. He presses defenders relentlessly, links play effectively and can score in a variety of ways. His ability to play as a center forward, second striker or wide attacker also gives Arteta valuable tactical flexibility. Having already won the FIFA World Cup, Champions League and multiple league titles, Álvarez brings a winning mentality that Arsenal would welcome as they continue their push for major trophies. Why the deal is becoming difficult. Although Arsenal admire the Argentine star, several factors make the transfer extremely complicated. First, Atlético Madrid have no intention of selling one of their most important players. After investing heavily to sign him, the Spanish club sees Álvarez as the future leader of their attack. Secondly, any potential transfer would require a huge financial commitment. Arsenal would likely have to break their transfer record to even begin negotiations, while the players' wages would also represent a significant investment. Competition from other top European clubs only adds to the challenge. If Álvarez ever became available, several elite teams would almost certainly enter the race for his signature, a perfect fit for Arteta's style. One of the biggest reasons Arsenal remain interested is how naturally Álvarez fits Arteta's football philosophy. The Arsenal manager wants forwards who work hard without the ball, press aggressively and contribute to the team's build-up play. Álvarez has already mastered these qualities during his time at Manchester City under Pep Guardiola. His movement creates space for teammates like Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli and Martin Odegaard, while his intelligence allows him to combine quickly in tight areas. Simply put, he is much more than a traditional striker. What Arsenal could gain. If Arsenal somehow completed this dream signing, they would gain. Few players available in world football could improve Arsenal's frontline as much as Álvarez. Alternative options. If the Gunners accept that Álvarez is out of reach this summer, they are expected to consider other striker targets. Several names continue to be linked with the club, including Benjamin Sesko, Victor Gyökeres, Victor Osimhen and Alexander Isak. Each offers different strengths, but none combine versatility, work rate and tactical intelligence quite like the Argentine. Arteta and Arsenal's recruitment team will need to decide whether to wait for a future opportunity or move quickly for another elite striker before the transfer window closes. Can Arsenal still pull off the deal? Football transfers can change rapidly, and situations often evolve unexpectedly. While Atlético Madrid currently appear determined to keep their star forward, unexpected offers or changing circumstances can always alter a club's position. For now, though, Arsenal's hopes remain slim. Unless there is a dramatic change in negotiations, the dream of seeing Julián Álvarez leading the line at the Emirates Stadium may have to wait. Final thoughts. Julián Álvarez remains one of the most complete forwards in modern football and would undoubtedly strengthen Arsenal's attack. His quality, versatility and winning mentality make him an ideal player for Mikel Arteta's ambitious project. However, with Atlético Madrid unwilling to sell and the financial demands of any deal likely to be enormous, Arsenal's dream move is now surrounded by uncertainty. The Gunners will continue exploring their options in the striker market, but unless something unexpected happens, Álvarez looks set to remain in Spain for the foreseeable future. Even if Arsenal ultimately miss out, their interest highlights the club's determination to sign a world-class centre-forward capable of helping deliver the Premier League and Champions League trophies that supporters have been waiting for.